All right, happy October 1st. Hopefully the rest of the month goes better than this for me. So today we're going over caseload, and I was explaining that something happened with my handout this morning. I'm not sure what it was, but it aired out, and so it's not there anymore. It went away. So if you want the handout now, you can go to our website, hbug.k12.il.us. Look under events up at the top, and next to the link to register for this training, you'll see a little notepad. Click on that and it will give you today's notes. So I'm not sure. It's still on yours? Okay, well, some people still see it. So I just see, it says we apologize, but an error has occurred. So that's what I see. So good deal. I'm glad it's there for you guys. So if you have not attended a training with us before, you can ask questions in the questions pod as we're going through the session. I will answer those as we're going throughout. If I don't answer yours immediately, it may mean we're getting ready to talk about that subject on an upcoming slide. So I'm not ignoring you. If for some reason you ask me something that I cannot answer, hopefully not in this session, but if you do ask me something that I cannot answer, I will find out the answer and I will email everyone afterward with a follow-up. So we will go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk about the purpose of the caseload, how you set up your caseload definitions, how you create an actual caseload, how you put students onto that, how you can edit and delete the caseloads. And then there's an export-import process. So you can use Excel to make your data entry a little bit easier with caseload. And then I'm going to give you just a big list of all the reports. You will find the one that you like, okay? There are so many class lists. So what is the purpose of the caseload? So this is an optional piece of iStar. You do not have to use this. If you already have some type of setup for getting information from your schools or your districts, if you're a co-op, if you already have a process set up and that's working well, then great. You know, caseload may not be something for you, but the first big thing that it is used for is for communication. How do you get data from your districts or your school buildings so that you know what to put into iStar for students? So sometimes you don't need this because you use an IEP system that you're able to be notified when a new student needs to be put into the system or when a meeting occurs and a change needs to take place, those kinds of things. So as far as using class lists for you know, the communication purposes to update data in iStar, it's probably something that's rather archaic to some of you. So I know that a lot of you use a very popular IEP program that has a page that gives you everything that you need to know for putting data into iStar. So that's great. So if you have that, this probably wouldn't be the reason that you would use caseload. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it for the districts and co-ops that use this method. It works great. They've been using it for years. It's not broken, so they're not going to change anything. The second thing is that you can set up programs very quickly if you use the caseloads. So what I mean by that is when we are about to do claims, and if I'm working with a district, one of the steps that is very tedious that I usually say, okay, here's your homework. You need to go make, you know, you're going to have your programs you've created for costs. Then you're going to have your teachers, and then you're going to have the teacher's class list. So that's all the students that the teacher sees. It's very, very convenient and fast to add all of the students to the program if you use the caseload, because you can simply go to that drop down in your filter and say, I want all of Mrs. Smith's kids. You can hit select all and add them to that student report for programs immediately. What's the alternative and why do I give that as homework? Because the alternative is you go search student by student and add them individually. So you're going to search by SysID, add the student, search by the next SysID, add the student. If your program has 10 kids, that's not that big of a deal. If your program is rather large, which in sometimes middle school or high school where you're changing classes, those programs can be really big. And so you're doing this tedious process over and over and over again. So consider class lists, creating these, or I'm sorry, caseloads, and creating these for your program creation. If you only have a handful of orphans and this isn't a big deal, this isn't something that I would begin because of that. But if you are creating, you know, multiple programs every year and you have to go add students into these programs, this is going to be a massive time saver for you during that program creation period. So there are other perks to having these class lists. Don't get me wrong, you're able to track minutes and look for changes, but those two things are the biggest reasons that people that are iStar users will utilize the caseload portion. So again, this is optional. It has nothing to do with the approval record in iStar. Absolutely nothing to do with it. Okay, so you can have approval records on all of your students that you're serving, and you can have a handful of caseloads set up. You don't have to have every student in a class in caseload. There are no rules. So again, there is no tie with the caseload section versus your required approvals section. Okay, we can run reports and put some of those fields on the report together, but one does not affect the other one. So if you use caseload, sometimes you may see that you end a student on their approval record in iStar. It will ask you, do you want to stop their enrollment as well? If you say no, that enrollment's going to continue even though your approval record has ended. So when I say they don't have a relationship, that's what I mean. Okay, so they're totally separate pieces. Approvals are required. Caseload is optional. We can make them work hand in hand on reports, but one will not affect the other one. Okay, so it's something else. You know, it's basically keeping track of a separate little piece about these kids, but has nothing to do with the approval. All right, so caseload definition examples. You can do this any way you want to because it is optional. It's yours. We don't dictate. We don't critique. We don't use it. So do you want to set them up by programs, like district-wide programs? Is that how you should, you know, the route you should take? So like resource, early childhood, life skills. Now, if you're going to be setting these up for claims, you might want to be more specific than this, okay? When we're looking at claims, we're looking at orphans, we're looking at the teachers that work with those orphans. We don't need on a program every early childhood teacher if your district has 15 early childhood classes. We don't need all those people, okay? So maybe you want to set it up by the teacher. That tends to be the best avenue overall. All right. You can also do this by related services if you would need to look and see what teachers or, you know, what providers have certain students. So maybe if we're doing claims and we're looking for related services, then you can go say, okay, I'm going to look at OT and see, did they have this? Or was it just on the, you know, on the approval? Was it a mistake? Those kinds of things. So that's always an idea also if you want to use related services. All right, so how do you set this up? Well, you have to have access. Most of you probably do. You're going to need to go under approvals and claims, student, and down at the bottom, you'll see caseload definition. So what does this mean? We are defining the options that you're going to choose from. We are going to define what your drop downs will say. Where are we putting students? So this is where you would be deciding, am I going to go by class name? Am I going to by teacher? Am I going to go by related service, building? You know, what's going to benefit me overall if I'm going to do this for either like a roster to collect data or for the program definition in the spring. So we're going to start from scratch. This is a filter. If you already have things in caseload, you hit search, you're going to see what you have. But we're going to add in a new one. Okay, it's the beginning of the year. So oftentimes you may be creating new ones. You can edit existing and that will not affect previous years. So remember, we're in a new school year. Anything you do in this school year will not change the definition in last school year. So you will enter in, well, let it default to this year, the class name, the school, the teacher name. You can click on this personnel search if you want, and it will take you over. You can search your personnel data and pull someone in from there. It's just whether you want to type it in or go over there and pull them in, it's up to you. You can put the location in and you can use notes. These are optional fields. You don't have to use them. Keep in mind that if you don't fill in these first 3 fields, the class lists are not all going to work for you. A lot of the sorts may depend on these 3 fields, not always, but that's the first thing that it's going to group by for your page breaks. So you're only going to want to see, you know, one class at a time, one teacher at a time. So one grouping at a time. Okay, I have a good question. Can a student be on more than one caseload? Absolutely. As many as they need to be. That's the right way to do it. Okay, they may have multiple teachers. All right, so we're going to save that. Once you have your data entered, again, you can click on this personnel search. It's going to take you over to your personnel database. You can search there and pull that person over if you want to do it that way instead of typing in. You'll see this select check mark often in this system, so you would just select the person that you wanted to pull in. So that's another way that you can enter the teacher, again, if you don't just want to type in teacher. All right, so now we've created this caseload. So we have our caseload test class. So let's say this is Sarah's class, and I'm the teacher, all right? So we're going back to our caseload definition. Once you hit save, this is where it will bring you once you've created that. So you're going to click on this caseload icon, and then you can enter a default start date for all of the students that are attached to this caseload test class. So you don't have to go in and type their begin date or their start date in on every single record for the students that are attached. All right. So then you can add the actual students. So we've defined the class, we have our teacher, etc. Now we have put in a start date for this class. And next we're going to add students to the class. Now, if you have students that start, you know, later on, you can, you know, that start date doesn't have to be the same for every student. It's going to be like an approval record. You're going to have kids come and go. So start dates will be different, but when you're setting it up, most of them are going to have the same begin date. So next, you're going to go and search for the student approval records that you want to add to the caseload. So if they don't have an approval when you're creating these, then you're not going to be able to add them. All right, so they have to have an existing approval record in iStar for you to add them into the caseload. They have to exist. All right, so you're going to search for those people. You can search by grade level. That may help you a little bit in adding kids to these classes. You can already see that if we had a class to search by, this would be great, right? So that's where it comes in for programs. So you can use the check mark to select one, or you can check the students in the boxes and then hit the use selected, and that will add all of those students to the caseload at once. Okay. All right, so this is what it's going to look like after you click the select all and add the students. So here we've got our students that we've added. Here's our start date that we entered, so that default date we entered when we were creating this class. So next, what we'll be able to do is export this file of students, and we'll be able to edit things about the students in Excel and then import it back into iStar. You don't have to do this, but a lot of people that track minutes really like to be able to do this. It's faster for them. They don't have as many clicks, so they don't have to open each of these records for these kids. Like, so to enter minutes now, you can click on the pencil and go enter in the minutes. But if you do the export out, then you're able to edit all those quickly all at once down a column in Excel, and then import that data back into iStar. So, okay, kind of already talked about that, your edit and delete. So we want to get to, here we go. Okay, so exporting and importing your caseload. Again, going back, just so you know where we're at, we're still under this caseload definition. Okay, so we are going to open up this caseload that we just created. So we're going to click on the caseload icon, and we're going to go in and start to do the export. So here we are, we're on our program, and down at the bottom, you're going to see in parentheses export. This is a button that you can click on. So we're going to click on the export, and it's going to download an Excel spreadsheet with the data in it for these students for this caseload. So you need to know where your downloads go when you're using something in your browser, basically. So find your download, open that up, okay? When you open up the Excel document, you're going to first click Enable Editing, and some things you need to know. Do not edit columns A or B or this blue header row, all right? Do not change those. If you do, it's not going to be able to import back into iStar. It is relying on the school year and the SysID to import back into the system. Okay, so don't edit those. You're going to go ahead and save your spreadsheet somewhere, so you'll be able to browse to that later to import it back into iStar. So make sure you know where you're saving it. So what is the purpose of this? Well, you can come in, you could enter in end dates if you knew what those were going to be. You can put in direct and consult minutes. Okay, you can enter in note information. So you can do, you can even do C, so you could do start date changes, but most of the time you're looking at D, E, F, H, and I. So you can make your edits quickly here going down through the list. Remember, do not change columns A or B or the header row. We're relying on that to get the data back into iStar. Okay, so now you're ready. You've saved your spreadsheet and you want to bring it back into iStar with those changes that you've made. So again, back to the caseload definition. You're going to come to the bottom. You're going to choose your file. So you need to browse and find where you saved that spreadsheet just now, and then import the file back. If you don't see progress immediately, you can hit the refresh grid and you will see where the changes are imported. This doesn't take very long, okay? So normally we don't have hundreds of people doing this at once. So it's a fairly quick process, all right? So you're gonna import that back in. Now you've made changes in Excel. Again, even if you're really not that savvy with Excel, it's a lot faster to make changes there than it's gonna be to open records, make changes, save records, open the next one, etc. Okay? So another thing you have to remember about this, as I mentioned earlier, these are not tied to approval records. So you have to be very careful that if you are making changes to approval records or deleting students out of the approvals, don't forget, they're not going to disappear from your caseload. Okay, so when you are being prompted and asked, you're doing something with approvals, do you want to do this to caseload also? Pay attention to those prompts. Otherwise, you're going to have students that might still be on caseloads that you aren't even serving. Okay, so watch that. I know it's a frustration that people have, but there simply is no tie between the two. There just isn't. We can't make one rely on the other. Okay, that's not the way that all of our users want that to happen. So plus they just really don't have a relationship. Kids, the approval records may not change and the caseloads could change multiple times. Their approval record and their IEP may stay very similar all year, but maybe they just have some class changes. So they really don't have much of a relationship at all. Just because a class changes doesn't mean their disability and related services change. So just keep that in mind when you're working on this. If you're going to start using caseloads, you're going to have to manage it just like you do the approvals. It's always going to have to be in the back of your mind. If I do this with an approval, what do I need to do for my class list? Because what's going to happen is you're going to print your class list and you're going to have kids on there that aren't active. Okay, so we have some of that going on right now. It's a very common time of year for this to happen. So that's kind of why I'm on this topic of there's no relationship. Okay, so I'm not going to read all of these reports to you, but this will tell you the name of the report and the description. So you'll be able to see, is this going to benefit me? Which report would I want? What is my purpose in using caseload? What role do I want it to serve? Okay, how much data do I want to keep updated? What are you tracking? Do you track a lot of optional fields or do you just do the minimum? Okay. Okay, would we do programs and caseloads? What is the difference? Okay, so program definition is a tool in iStar. It is used to help you calculate claims in the spring. Typically, if you have orphanage students and they do not go to a therapeutic day school or they're not outplaced, then if they're in your district and they're orphans and they're receiving services, you don't know how much it costs to educate them. So we use the program method, excuse me, we use the program method to figure out that cost so you can make a claim. Now, when I was talking about using the caseload because of programs, I was referencing just making programs easier to set up. So one is not reliant on the other. They don't have anything to do with each other. They are both optional tools. You can build programs outside of iStar and do it all on paper with pencil. The process is the same no matter what for programs, and you do have to do them if you're going to make claims. But it's not reliant on caseloads. It just makes it a little easier. So what I would do is look in your program definition from last school year and see how many programs you actually used. And that will help you know if caseload would be a good option for you or not. If you don't need it for another purpose, then you're just doing busy work, okay? All right, so another page full of reports. This is the one that has some approval information on it. Some of the other ones do as well, but it also has events. So events is another optional piece of iStar. It doesn't seem like events is very popular anymore, but it is something that can help you track things that happen throughout the year, re-evals, annual reviews, different kinds of meetings, things like that. So this one does not have the address, so some people don't care about seeing the address. And then you're going to have one with minutes per week, and then you can see it's going to start breaking them down by different sorts. Okay, so per class, per serving school, etc. So you should be able to find something that will meet your needs in these class lists that you can distribute, or if you don't need the reports and you're simply using it for program creation, then you won't have to worry about that, okay? So it's basically either people use it for those reports, that's the product you want to generate, or they're using it to help formulate programs and just make your data entry a lot quicker. So either one of those is what I see. That doesn't mean there aren't other uses. If anybody has a different use, let me know. I'm happy to know. But it seems that over the years, it is, again, to create rosters or class lists to send out and get back with changes, or to make your program creation quicker. Okay, I will take any questions that y'all have on caseload. If you have questions, please reach out to us. We're getting almost to the point where we're finally wrapping up everything from last school year. So we're going to have a little bit of downtime for a minute, maybe. So if you have questions or you need some help with this, just give us a call. We're happy to help. We can help walk you through and go over, options for you. What I don't want people to do and what I hate seeing is just doing something because it's the way it's always been done, and you just find out it's just busy work. You're not using it for anything. It doesn't serve a purpose. There's no product coming from it for you. It's just something that you just keep doing because that's just the way it's been done. So we want to make sure also that you're not doing this for no reason. I'm sure you guys have plenty to do. So. Okay, so someone got in a little bit late, and yes, this is optional, but wants to know what the purpose is. The purpose of doing caseloads is, one, to create class list reports that you can distribute to your districts or your schools to get data back so you know the updates that go into iStar. I mentioned that if you use an IEP program, a lot of them have mechanisms to take care of that for you. They have like a fax cover page that comes to you, so you don't need to do this. The second reason is if you create programs in the program definition for claims in the spring, it can make your program process quicker because you can search by class and add all those students at once. So it gives you a filter option that you don't normally have. Those are the two things that I'm aware of. I did ask if anybody in here had any other purpose for it, but I didn't get any feedback. So I'm assuming those are the two roles. So the first one might seem kind of archaic to some of you, but for the districts that are using it or the co-ops that are using it, it works. They have no problems with it, and they've been doing it for years, so they're just not changing it. So yeah. Now, with those class lists, remember most of our reports export to a PDF. So I'm not saying that they're literally sending interoffice paper snail mail or anything like that. I mean, they might be, but I think a lot of them are emailing the PDFs and asking for changes. Okay, I will take any more questions you guys have. Good thing we have a small group today, so not very many people saw my blunder with my audio. Okay. I don't see any questions coming through. Thank you guys for attending. We have several more trainings coming up. So if you want to get registered for any of those, we will be happy to have you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Again, happy October. I hope everybody enjoys the spooky season. So I will see y'all next time. Bye-bye.